I don't think there's a gaming company out there that hates its user base more than Nintendo. They have time and time again done deplorable things to their community that other companies wish that they could get away with without someone on Reddit calling them out and getting about 20,000 updates. Usually, they'll make a choice centered around money that kind of screws over their consumer base, but their fan base, they don't really care because they think if they're well behaved enough, they might just get Splatoon 4 this year. I could list so many things that Nintendo have done. Like, for example, in the past, a couple years ago, they had this weird Nintendo YouTuber program. Basically, if you made a video about a Nintendo game, they would DMCA your entire video and claim all the money off it. But don't worry, because Nintendo were there to save you from themselves. You could join a Nintendo Partner Management Program, and they would take 30% of your revenue, and in return, you could talk about games that they made. Imagine charging your fan base for promoting their games for free. But this recent change, out of all the things Nintendo have done, is just centered around greed. Now, some of you might know about the Dolphin Emulator. It's a program that you can download for free and run, and it emulates old Nintendo Wii games and Nintendo GameCube games. Now, obviously, getting into emulation, that in of itself is a whole, morale and legal issue. But the thing is, keep in mind, I said Nintendo Wii and GameCube games. These are consoles and games that Nintendo straight up do not make anymore. And if you're not emulating these games and you don't have a physical copy, chances are you're either going to do two things. You're going to go to a charity shop and find one, and the disc has probably been stolen by some kid anyway, or you're going to go on eBay to find a copy at ridiculous prices. Usually because the guy who's selling it got it graded, probably by his mum, so he's going to charge about 100 times worth the actual value of the game. Also, keep in mind, if you do buy these graded copies, original unwrapped, Nintendo still does not make any money off that, so you're no better off. The point is I'm trying to make, this isn't like it's a revenue stream that Dolphin are leeching off. Another point as well is a lot of franchises Nintendo is just kind of quietly abandoned. For example, Mario. Mario is Nintendo's biggest franchise, basically their mascot, but do you know about Super Mario Sluggers? Sorry, I said that wrong. Super Mario Super Sluggers for the Wii, which was basically Mario Baseball. Now, I'm going to be honest, I don't think Nintendo's going to bring back that beloved franchise anytime soon. So for the 3 people that actually did care about downloading that game, Dolphin gives them the option to. Another point to bring up as well is that Nintendo is absolutely abysmal at archiving old games. For example, the Nintendo 3DS shop, that's gone. You can't get anything on there anymore. Now, you can pirate it. You can pirate it to bring the shop back online, but Nintendo official support has ended. So now you'll probably have people selling Nintendo 3DSs like an iPhone with Flappy Bird on it. Now, back to the Dolphin emulator. This program seems to be a thorn in Nintendo's side. I'm convinced that every hour, once a day, Nintendo have a boardroom meeting where they plan to assassinate or poison the guy that made the program. Now, the reason why I'm talking about Nintendo and Dolphin is the emulator Dolphin was going to launch on Steam, but then Nintendo realized and they launched a DMCA takedown to Valve saying, do not let that game on our store page. The funny thing is about this situation as well, even though Nintendo are basically rent-free about getting Dolphin off of the Steam store page, the actual website where you can download Dolphin is still up. Now, I think the reason why Nintendo haven't or can't take it down is because back in 2000, there was a legal dispute, a court case between Sony and Kinetics. And that was an emulation website, and the court actually favored that Kinetics wasn't, infringing any copyright with Sony, and it was more fair use. So the website was allowed to be kept up. Now, I know a lot of YouTubers have talked about this situation, but one thing no one really seems to be addressing is it wasn't actually Nintendo that found out about the Dolphin emulator going on Steam. Steam themselves actually snitched Dolphin to Nintendo. So from this article, we can see that Valve themselves said, given Nintendo's history of taking action against some emulators, we brought this to their attention proactively after the Dolphin team announced it was coming to Steam. This feels like a Game of Thrones plot. Imagine being that scared by the wrath of Nintendo and their horde of lawyers that you basically sacrifice this poor bastard Dolphin just to make sure that your company doesn't get sued. I'm very happy that Valve made this decision to snitch on Dolphin because obviously they don't want to get distracted from very important priorities like making a new Half-Life game or developing a Team Fortress 2 update. And then the Nintendo lawyers reached back and they said, Wii and Nintendo GameCube game files or ROMs are encrypted using cryptographic keys. The Dolphin emulator operates by using these keys without Nintendo's authorization and decrypting them. This circumvents a measure that effectively controls access to a work protected under the Copyright Act. Now, originally I kind of read this and I thought, oh my god, emulated games aren't the original game? Thank you, Nintendo, for teaching me about such heresy. I will now set fire to my computer and play only my Switch games at 20 FPS. Basically, it's a little bit confusing, but what Nintendo are citing is that Dolphin uses proprietary software keys. So basically, they're using keys that were generated for the Wii and GameCube games. So they've got them kind of not legally, and they've still got them on the website. So they're basing the emulations off of these keys that they got from Nintendo. The thing what I do want to talk about, though, is I don't understand why companies care about emulating if you're still supporting the company. Like, for example, Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. That game looks amazing, and on the Nintendo Switch for 2023 current year, it runs subpar. I'm sure there'll be many people coping in the comments. It's cinematic, it's great at my 20 frames. It doesn't run great even if the game's amazing. Now, people have emulated the game to be 4K 60 FPS on PC. Now, me personally, I do not see any problem with someone to emulate Tears of the Kingdom to have a better experience. Only if they were to go out and actually buy, you know, the original Tears of the Kingdom game. I know people that have done that. People who have bought a physical copy for the Nintendo Switch. They've never touched it. They basically just used it as a, you know, rite of passage that I gave money to Nintendo. I can't be sued now. And then they've emulated the game and had a better experience with it. I know I'm going to get some backlash for this very bold statement, but the Nintendo Switch, it is incredibly aged hardware. Like, it cannot run most games at a stable frame rate. And instead of releasing a much more powerful Switch like a Switch Pro, they release an OLED model, which is a slightly bigger screen, brighter display, double hard drive space, and then white controllers instead of blue and red. Now, obviously, talking about pirating, it's a very divisive topic. I'm not in the same camp as people that sit there refreshing their browser 20 hours a day, hoping a game that just came out gets cracked because they're a little brokey and they can't get their money up. I personally think pirating stuff under certain conditions is fine. Let's say, for example, there's a film or a video game that comes out and it's not coming out in your country because of, like, you know, some shitty licensing law. Imagine the amount of TV shows, for example, that you can't watch in your country. My morals behind that argument is, why should you give money to a company if they're purposely leaving you out? And again, to be devil's advocate and to try to defend Nintendo, if they had a back catalogue of games that you could play, this video wouldn't have even been made. But like, for example, Zelda, one of their biggest franchises, most of the games you can't even play on the Switch. So then if you're going to be like, you know, a legal citizen and not emulate, what are you going to do? Go on eBay and pay like $200 for it. Now, one theory about why Nintendo are so rent-free about emulating is because on their store page, they can actually emulate their own games, but you can't buy them. You have to pay, I love this so much, that horrible monthly price model. I mean, you can even pay for a year, which goes up to $80. $80 a year to basically rent games that you can never own. It's Blockbuster. I talked about the same kind of topic, I think a couple months ago now, when GoldenEye came out on the Switch, which is like a beloved classic game. You can't own it. You can never own it. You need to pay like a monthly or yearly fee to be able to rent it. And as soon as you stop paying that fee, they take the game right back from you, which is stupid. You never actually own the game then. But yeah, overall, I don't really understand like why emulating is such a huge problem. A lot of the stuff that came out on the Wii and on the GameCube is abandonware. It will never have a sequel. The franchise has probably been killed off. Nintendo's sitting on the IP, but they're not doing anything with it. But you know what? Maybe I can see where Nintendo are coming from, because God forbid if someone illegally emulates Super Mario Super Sluggers.